All right, here's your bell work prompt for the day. Spend about 5 minutes working on it, then have someone lead prayer, and then you can move on to the next slide. Go ahead and pause me at this time. All right, so we've looked at moral, like the fact that we all have morality and we have to make decisions. So how do we go about doing that? That's kind of be our goal for today, is looking at a process that will help us make moral decisions in the future. So this process we're going to learn about is called listen. You should all be receiving a handout at this point with the listen steps on it. After you've all received that handout, go ahead and start playing me again. So the first step is to look for the facts. If you're in a moral decision-making moment, you need to actually know what's going on. You need to know the who, the what, the where, the when, the why. So that way you're making an informed decision. Remember, we talked about an informed conscience. So it's important that you know the facts so that you're making a decision out of the facts and not just on a whim. You also want to imagine the possibilities. There are a lot of ways that you can respond to a situation. It's not always an either or. There can be a lot of creative solutions or ways of combining things or looking at things in unique ways. So doing that is very important. It also is important to look at the consequences of each action in that way too, so that you're envisioning exactly how this might play out. After you've found the facts and you've figured out what are possible ways of doing things, then it's also important to get insight from other people, because not all of us have the same life experience, and we also get a lot of new perspectives from other people in our lives. So we figure out who and what can we look to for advice, whether that be parents or friends, the law, whether that be scripture or a faith tradition. We're looking outside of ourselves for insight into how we address the situation, because we're probably not the first people to have to come into encounter with this. Also, we indeed, right, have the moral law written on our hearts. We know who we are, and it's important to turn inward, to reflect, to take some time within ourselves to figure out who we are and how we want to live out our values and what's important to us in that situation. Of course, we're approaching this from a Catholic perspective or a religious perspective, so we can expect that God is going to help us. And this doesn't have to be just a Christian God. This could be that it could be a Hindu God, a Buddhist God. It could be any religious or spiritual tradition. That there is something beyond us that is helping us, and that we have faith that we will not be making this decision alone, that we are supported. And finally, once we've gone through those, we also then have to actually make a decision. Ultimately, the goal of moral decision making is to make a decision. So you'll notice that around the room are colorful pieces of paper with each step of the listen process written on it. What you're going to do is you're going to be put in small groups. So let's number off by 7. Let's number off by 7. And in your group, you're going to get a couple questions that could pertain to a different one of these steps. So as a group, you're going to get a couple questions and some tape. So get some blue tape and a couple of the slips from Mr. Penny Legion. And then as a small group, you're going to determine which stage do you think that question best fits with. And then you're going to go tape it next to that particular sign around the room. So go ahead and give yourself 10 to 15 minutes to do that. All right, so if you want at this moment, you can spend some time explaining why you put things under what you put to the greater class. If not, that's all right as well. I'm not there, so it makes it a little bit more challenging. However, I will also make sure that in your OneNote there is with this PowerPoint, I will add the questions and which stage they go under, so that you have those in a more formal, finished way, in case for some reason the questions got put under the wrong title. What I'd love for you to do now is in your small group, spend the next 10 minutes discussing these questions. So please make sure that you're on task. Mr. Penny Legion, feel free to walk around and make sure that they're talking about these questions. But I want you to reflect on what would be the benefit of a process like listen, and kind of debrief listen for yourselves.